Hi friends, welcome back to 5 Minute Modern. My name is Cindy, and today we're talking about Impressionism. Why is it so major? Impressionism is widely held to be the starting point of modern art, and in this video we'll talk about why that is. This video will be a little broader in scope than some of my other videos and a little more basic. But I think that Impressionism is such an important movement and so widely discussed that it's worth taking a moment to refresh ourselves on it. I recently did a video on Gustave Courbet, a realist painter who was an important forerunner to the Impressionists, and if you haven't watched that one yet, I'd encourage you to check it out first, since it provides a great starting point for this one. As a realist, Courbet sought to record the world, and especially nature, exactly as it was. Courbet was able to paint directly in nature thanks to a recent invention: metal tubes to store paint. Prior to that point, storing paint had been messy. The metal tubes made paint more portable and allowed artists like Courbet to carry their materials out to paint in nature, or as they called it in France, in plein air. Working directly from nature, Courbet sought to capture the landscape before him exactly as he witnessed it. It was a key component of Courbet's realism that he wanted to paint exactly what he saw, and his decision to base his paintings on his own personal perspective of the scenes before him was the first real introduction of subjectivity in art. To some degree, art had always been subjective. Painters had always decided what to paint and how to paint it, but never before had they tried to incorporate their personal perspective into their painting. Another technological advancement of this time period paved the way for painters to focus on subjectivity. From the 1820s onward, men like Nicephore Niepce, Louis Daguerre, and Henry Fox Talbot began developing early methods of photography. Though photography had only been around for a few decades by Courbet's time, it had rapidly replaced painting as an objective means of recording. No painting, however meticulously rendered, could quite match the impersonal gaze of the camera. Painting more subjectively based on his own view meant that Courbet occasionally smudged the paint to better capture the unique textures that he saw in nature. The smudged brushstrokes, emphasis on subjectivity and realism that are present in Courbet's work would all be taken to even greater levels by Courbet's protege, Edward Manet. In addition to drawing influence from Courbet, Manet was greatly inspired by the work of Spanish painters like Diego Velázquez, who crafted psychologically complex portraits with loose brushwork. But Manet made his own brushstrokes even looser, smudging them to the point that they were plainly visible. He likewise reduced the depth of his pictorial space, sometimes even using a simple studio backdrop as Velázquez had, eschewing the long-standing emphasis on carefully rendering 3 dimensions in favor of shallow compositions that highlighted the flattened perspective of the canvas. Although these techniques had originated with Velázquez, Manet pushed each forward to such a degree that they highlighted exactly those aspects of the painting that made it a painting: the flat surface of the image and the clear evidence of the artist's hand in crafting that image. In the opinion of historian Svetlana Alpers, this marked the beginning of modern painting, art that no longer sought to hide its artifice. But this style of painting was not necessarily received well in its own time. The French Academy of Beaux-Arts maintained an iron grip on art tastes in the country by selecting which artists would be included in the annual Paris Salon, arguably the most influential art exhibition in the world at its time. Manet's work was rejected from the Salon in 1863, and in response he started his own Salon des Refusés, or Salon of the Refused, so that he could showcase his work alongside that of other artists rejected by the stodgy Academy. With a new opportunity to showcase their work in a salon free from the old-fashioned tastes of the art world establishment, more artists began following Manet's example and pushing his ideas even further. In an earlier video on this channel, we covered Berthe Morisot, my personal favorite of the Impressionists. Manet and Morisot were joined by Edgar Degas, now renowned for his ballet paintings. Degas had a remarkable ability in his paintings to capture the texture of the stiff tulle that is used for ballerinas' tutus and to show how it reflected the stage lights. Though most Impressionists would follow Morisot's example, preferring to paint the light as they saw it out in nature. Camille Pissarro, Pierre-Auguste Renoir, and Claude Monet all painted in plein air, working to capture the ways that trees, flowers, and water reflected the light. Often, time is an important element of these paintings. Sunlight changes dramatically and rapidly throughout the day, and these artists recognized that the particular effect of light they captured would only last a moment before the sun changed position and the whole composition was altered. Time would be especially important to Monet, who revisited subjects like haystacks at varying times of day and seasons to capture how he saw the light at each precise moment. I think the combination of the beauty that arises from nature's reflection of sunlight, the fleeting and transitory quality of this beauty, and the presence of the artist's personal view of it is what gives these works their lasting appeal. But it was precisely the subjectivity of these works which was lambasted by art critic Louis Leroy in an infamous review of their 1874 show. Leroy derided the group as Impressionists because they merely painted their impressions of a scene. And as is the case with Cubism and Fauvism, the critique intended as an insult actually became the official designation for the style. There's a lot more to cover with Impressionism, including the post-Impressionists like Paul Cézanne, Paul Gauguin, and Vincent van Gogh, who came immediately after the artists we've discussed in this video. But I hope this provided you with a good base-level understanding of what makes this art movement so important. Please let me know in the comments down below what you think about Impressionist painting. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something new. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.